Fate Be Changed, Chapter 26, Elinor. At the start of every Highland Games, a musician of the Queen's choosing pounded on a timbrel to welcome clansmen to the festivities. The thump, thump, thump of an open palm striking tautly pulled calfskin never failed to excite Elinor. The rapidly escalating beat of the drum was the way her heart now pounded as she traversed the woods on Alistair's back. Her decision to leave the castle had been made so hastily that she had not had time to fully grasp what she was doing, yet she persisted. It all started when her lute practice was prematurely aborted after her instructor, Hextilda, popped the string on her instrument. Elinor had gone in search of Merida to see if she wanted to pursue the fire-making lesson, but Merida had been tied up in the kitchens, preparing for that evening's big dinner with the Fraser chieftain in Lachlan. That was when Elinor decided to seek out another teacher. She'd quickly made it out of the stables and mounted Alistair. Now she was halfway to the Dunbrock camp. She should turn back. Asking Fergus to teach her to make fire was insanity. But she did not want to turn back. For reasons she did not even understand, she wanted to see him. She had to see him, and having Fergus assist her in making fire was the best excuse she could come up with. She slowed Alistair when she was still some distance from the camp and dismounted him. Perhaps the walk would give her some time to come to her senses. If you had any sense, you would go back to the castle, Elinor muttered. She decided to do just that. But just as she was preparing to mount her horse, she heard, "Princess?" She turned, her eyes widening as her heartbeat thudded triple time. "Fergus," Elinor squeaked. Hello." "What are you even doing here, Princess?" He held a dagger in one hand and a large fish in the other. Ignoring his question, Elinor frowned at his catch. "Did you kill the fish with a knife?" Fergus looked down at the fish as if he had forgotten he held it. Then he burst into a deep, roaring laugh. "I am a fine hunter, but even I am not that good, Princess. The dagger is to clean the fish. I use my arrow and bow to kill it, just as your maid was teaching you to." Elinor felt her face grow impossibly hot as embarrassment rushed through her, but Fergus had just given her the opening she needed. "Yes, well, speaking of Merida and her lessons, that is actually the reason I am here." She suddenly felt shy and unsure of herself. She hated that feeling, but Fergus made her nervous and tingly. "You see, yesterday Merida was to teach me to make fire, but it was interrupted by our sojourn to Clan Inez." She held up her hands. "That was more important. And even though we did not make such progress in fretting about the potential threat to the kingdom, it is very good that we went, but I would still like to learn to make fire and—" She toed a crescent-shaped rock, squeezing her hands tightly that her nails dug into her palms. "Well—" "Yes, Princess?" She looked up. "I was hoping you would teach me." His russet eyebrows arched into twin peaks over his striking eyes. But then those eyes narrowed, and Elinor's nervousness multiplied tenfold under his scrutiny. "Why is your maid teaching you to fish and build a fire?" Fergus asked. She was prepared for this question. "Because they are important skills for any lass to possess. When I learned that Merida's father taught her how to do such things, I thought it was admirable." "The Dunbrocks believe in preparing their children for anything," he said. Elinor's mouth fell open. "You know she is of Clan Dunbrock?" "Of course," Fergus said. "I can spot my own. She's of the Dunbrock of Dunbarton, in the Lowlands." "The Lowlands?" Elinor tried to not let her face register the shock she felt. Merida had led her to believe that she was of Clan Dunbrock that belonged to her father's kingdom. Elinor had figured that it was the girl's disguise that had prevented her fellow clansmen from recognizing her when they first encountered Fergus's camp, not that she was from an entirely different branch of the clan, one that lived in the Lowlands, where she knew Elinor was heading. Why had Merida not shared that she was from the same place Elinor wished to live? Why had she chosen not to be truthful? "But you and your maid are not the same," Fergus continued, recapturing Elinor's attention. "You are of noble blood, and I cannot think of a single occasion when you would need to catch your own fish or build your own fire." Elinor shrugged. "Nor will I ever use the old language of Northumbria, but I have had to learn it." His face was quick and devastatingly charming. "Fair enough, Princess. You have made your point." "So you will teach me?" Elinor asked, her chest tightening with anticipation. He stared into her eyes. When he spoke, his normally gruff voice was soft, almost reverent. "You are the princess of the kingdom to which I have pledged my fealty. Who am I to deny anything you ask of me?" A rueful grin danced on his mouth. "Though I did deny you when you insisted on helping figure out what is behind the riddle, didn't I? But that was for your own safety." "It is a good thing I do not listen to you." She stuck her nose in the air. "I proved to be very useful." "Yes, you did. It seems to make a surprisingly good team, princess." He smiled again, and Elinor smiled back, both staring at each other in matching mischievous grins. The air grew thick with sensation she could not name. It was rich and warm and comforting, like being wrapped in a soft pelt as she sat in front of the fire on a winter evening. Elinor was the first to break eye contact. She shook her head and took several steps back. Fergus did the same, putting some distance between them. He cleared his throat and held up the fish. "Follow me. I must bring my catch to the camp, and then I shall teach you to make a fire." He sheathed his dagger and captured Alistair's reins in his free hand, then led both Elinor and the horse to their camp. Her steps faltered as they came upon the site. It had been stripped down to only the essentials: 2 tents, a small fire pit, and a lone pot. "There were more of you, were there not?" Elinor asked. "I sent the other men back to Dunbrock to gather the clan for the Highland Games. They shall return in a few days' time." He nodded toward the 3 soldiers engaged in various tasks throughout the camp. "I kept my best men with me so that they can dig deeper into the threat against the kingdom. If Mor'du crawls out of the cave, we will deal with him rightly." "And if it's not Mor'du? If the threat is from one of the chieftains?" Fergus did not hesitate. "Then we will defend our king." His answer was absolute, and to think she had questioned his loyalty. Elinor felt a pang of guilt for ever having done so. Fergus motioned for one of the men to come near. He handed him the fish. "Tavish, cook this, will you? The princess has requested my assistance in an important matter." He turned to Elinor. "Tavish will need the fire pit to prepare the dinner, but I know someplace else we can go to practice your fire-making." He took her to the stream near the camp. Fergus gathered several sturdy sticks and set them in front of her. Elinor listened intently as he provided instructions. She wanted to impress him with her quick learning skills. Why it mattered so much to her if Fergus was impressed, she did not know, and she did not want to take the time to explore these strange feelings. But alas, she was impressing no one, because making fire was not as easy as it looked. "Are you sure I am using the proper wood?" she asked, after what felt like an eternity of trying to get the twigs alight. "I am sure," Fergus said. He stood with his arms crossed over his chest, observing her in the same way he had watched his men practice archery the day she and Merida happened upon their camp. No, you've got the wrong angle," Fergus said. He came up alongside her and knelt on one knee. He repositioned the twigs, securing the end of one into the groove of the other, which lay flat on the ground. "You will get better friction this way." Elinor readjusted, then attempted to light a spark. "You must work faster," Fergus said. He moved behind her, wrapping his arms around her. He demonstrated. "Like this." No part of his body touched hers, but she could feel the heat radiating from him. Elinor forgot about the lesson. She closed her eyes and soaked in the sense of warmth being so near Fergus provided. Elinor felt him stiffen. Another beat passed before he hastily moved away from her. "I didn't mean to. Forgive me, princess," he said. "I did not mean to crowd you." Elinor remembered where she was and stood. She knew she would throw a fit of indignation, but she could not bring herself to do so. "It is quite all right. You were only trying to assist me. 'Tis fine." She ran her hands along the front of her kirtle, then gave him a firm nod. "But perhaps we should conclude this lesson for today." "Yes, I think that is best," Fergus said. "What do we have here?" Elinor gasped and turned at the deceptively cheerful voice that came from her right. Lachlan Fraser. Elinor had not set eyes on the Fraser chieftain's eldest son since he was 6 and 10, but she immediately felt the same distaste for him that she had 3 years before. Lachlan dismounted the handsome white Percheron he rode on, tossed the horse's reins over its back. He stood within 3 feet of Fergus and crossed his arms. "You are a Dunbrock," Lachlan said. "I can tell by that offensive hair." Fergus's mouth curved into a wry smile. "Not everyone can be born with such gorgeous locks as your own." Lachlan turned to Elinor. "Is the Dunbrock bothering you?" He looked around. And where are your McCameron escorts? Surely they did not abandon you. No, Elinor said. I was out riding and happened upon the Dunbrock warrior. Lachlan pointed to the sticks. What is this? The princess was interested in how one makes fire. Ah, you should have come to your future betrothed, Lachlan said. I'm quite good at building a fire. He pulled a small steel hook from the satchel draped across his torso, along with a dagger. He gathered several more sticks and added them to the two Elinor had practiced with, struck the dagger against the piece of steel, and within moments had a spark. There you are, Lachlan said. He flicked the silver tool back into his bag. Does Clan Dunbrock not use fire steels? You are quite like the cavemen of old, are you? Elinor noticed the way Fergus's jaw tightened. She sensed that his patience was running thin and did not want a brawl to break out, although she was certain Lachlan would be no match for Fergus Dunbrock. It is getting rather late, Elinor interjected. I think it is time I make my leave. Yes, I believe that is best, Lachlan said, his eyes still on Fergus. I should go as well. I have a few duties to attend to tonight, before tonight's meal at McCameron Castle. He turned to her. I shall see you at dinner tonight, Elinor. Elinor recoiled as the use of her given name. She had not granted him permission to do so, but that meant nothing to this arrogant lout. She turned to Fergus. His good humor had vanished. It had been replaced with a stony expression that made her feel as cold as his smile had made her feel warm. Thank you for your time, Elinor told him. A hint of the earlier levity returned to his eyes as he responded with a respectful nod. You are very welcome, Princess. Elinor quickly mounted Alistair and set out for home. It wasn't until she was almost to the castle that a terrifying thought occurred to her. What would Lachlan say to her parents tonight after finding her alone in the forest with Fergus?